All right, everybody, we are live. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the 1977 All-Star Game. We're going to look at one of the ballots and we're going to kind of talk through our selections. So if you're on the chat during the live show, that is, let me know who you would vote for. We're going to go through the ballot. Like I said, we're going to kind of pick out our players at every position, and then we're going to look at what the actual starting lineup was for the 77 All-Star Game. Don't look at Google. Stay with me here. Just kind of pause looking things up, trying to be brilliant or anything like that. Just go with your gut. Let's make this a fun kind of exercise. So, with that in hand, I also wanted to show you that the big surprise, the big reveal, if you will. Well, let me just change the camera. That might be the best way to do it. Hold on one second. I'm going to change the camera and let you know what my big reveal was. And you can see it here. It's an actual, let me zoom in for everyone. It's the actual program. Oh, God, I have too many things open, guys. It's the actual program from the 77 game that was at, just so you all know, the game was at Yankee Stadium on July 19th, 1977. So it was at Yankee Stadium. Now, just a few things about the program that I thought, I don't know, maybe you might be interested in. Just move some things around. There is on the inside cover, so technically I think page 2. Remember, Major League Baseball and Gillette put out the ballots. So it's touting the number of ballots that were used over the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years. As you can see right here, in 1970, there were a little over 2 million ballots, and I'll try to get closer. In 73, there was 6.5 million ballots. In 76, 8.3. And in 1977, there were over 10 million ballots. So they're sort of just talking about how fun it was for everyone. Now, Gillette, the interesting part of this for me is Gillette, which is a razor company. Maybe it had other things back then, but it was essentially a razor company. They have a stethoscope here looking at the ball. So now the headline is "And the Beat Goes On." So I guess it's the heartbeat is the baseball. Not really sure, kind of a weird thing. But in this program, we have all kinds of, we have the National League and all the players that played in it. We have actually what the finals were for all the other previous All-Star games. So we have the National League team. We have a scorecard that was not used. And then we also have, obviously, the American League. And the manager, because they won the World Series, was Billy Martin. And on the American League, sorry. And for the National League team, it was Sparky Anderson, who lost the World Series in 70. No. Cincinnati beat the Yankees in 76. The Yankees won in 77 and 78. So Sparky Anderson won the World Series, and Billy Martin lost the World Series in 76 to be the manager for the American League. Tommy Lasorda, right here, was one of the coaches in the American League. Some of the coaches that you might know, well, there's really no. Alex Grammas with Milwaukee. Mark Fidrich, who was injured, and a player filled in for him. I think it was actually Nolan Ryan, was pictured. Jim Palmer, I want to say, started against Tom Seaver. Now, we're not voting on them. Obviously, it's still the same way where the managers pick the starting pitchers, but I believe those were the two starting pitchers. But we have other pictures of Joaquin Andujar, John Candelaria, and so forth. All right. Well, and here's a kind of an interesting ad for the championship ring by Balfour. I think they're by Jostens now. I could be wrong, but it almost looks like, if you look at it real close and you can see these up here, they almost look like, class rings, or they're so much smaller than they are now. Now, some of these are just, I guess all the players get this all-star ring that's shown here. Some of these are world championship rings. Some of them are other all-star games. I think these two are championship rings. But very interesting. And then you have a car ad for a Chrysler LeBaron. Just look how huge that was back in the day. So with no further ado, let's get right into the ballot. And let me share my screen here. I'll have to take off some of these. Let's see right here. Actually, I need to change the camera first. Hold on one second. I'll be right there. I know this is annoying. I get it. Okay, so we did that. And then we could do this. And then we're going to, what happened? Oh, there we go. All right. So we have the first basemen are first in our voting. All right. Now, I know there's not a lot of people on the line, but I need your votes. We're going to do National League first baseman right now. And if no one is voting, I'm just going to pick them. But excuse me. So we have Bill Buckner, Dan Dreesen, Steve Garvey, I forget, Milner, Montanez, Tony Perez, Willie Stargell, and Bob Watson. Does anybody have a vote here? Now, personally, I'm kind of thinking one of my goals here, one of my rules would be, okay, are we going to go for the All-Star or the Hall of Famers? So I would pick Willie Stargell. Does anybody else have a vote? If you have a vote, put it up in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to pick Willie Stargell at first base and say that looking at this, I would want to see Willie Stargell starting the game. That's not to say that I looked at his stats for 77 compared to Buckner's or Perez's, but I would just pick him because I know he's a known Hall of Famer. Now, so because I'm not hearing anything in the chat, I'm going to go with Stargell at first, and then we're going to go over to the right side, the American League. Sorry about that. We have Rod Carew, Chris Chambliss, Cecil Cooper, Mike Hargrove, the manager, George Scott, Lee May, and then John Mayberry, I think. And, Thompson. Oh, man, I can't think of his first name. Let's see if it's in the book here so I can sort of hedge my bets with you all. American League. Jason Thompson. Yeah, I couldn't think of his name. Hi, Synthetic Yields. Any votes on the American League first baseman? We already picked Willie Stargell as the first baseman for the National League. Synthetic Yields, I don't know if Clayton's on. Do you have any votes for American League first baseman? Now, I'm going to just share my rule. My rule is not my rule, but the way my thinking is, and you can go against this, is I would pick Rod Carew because I know that he's a Hall of Famer, and I would want him to start the game. But if Synthetic Yields, if you have a vote here, let me know, put it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to go with Rod Carew at first base. And we're going to go through this ballot and then see who actually, Synthetic Yields, what we're doing is we're going through the 77 ballot, the 77 All-Star Game ballot, and we're picking who we would have voted for in 1977 to start the All-Star Game. And then we're going to look at who actually started the All-Star Game. It's just something different. I'm just trying to do something a little bit different. And I found a 1977 ballot, and I also have a yearbook. Just as a side note, I know you weren't on earlier. Okay, so you got it, synthetic. So do you have any ideas on who you want to pick at first base in the American League? I'm 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 leaning towards Carew, but I'm open to anything. If you want Cecil Cooper, George Scott, I'm open to it. But my simple rule is Carew's a Hall of Famer. I'm going with the Hall of Famer. So any thoughts on that? And I'll give it a little bit more time, and then we'll go from there. I'm just moving things around to see how many people are actually watching this. Okay. Okay, so you're going with Carew. I'm going with Carew. Does anybody have any other votes? Anybody can vote here. Anybody can vote. Otherwise, we're gonna go Carew. We had I picked Stargell for first in the National League, and now we have Carew in the American League. Okay, now we're gonna go with Carew. Voting is closed. Now let's go to second base for the National League, and we have quite a we have some names that probably not too many people recognize. We have, I think it's Norm Cash. I want to say was Norm Cash. We have Ted Sizemore, Benny Stinnett, Manny Trio, Mike Tyson. On the bottom left, we have Joe Morgan, the Hall of Famer. Milan, I can't think of his name, his first name, and then Davey Lopes. I'm going to go with Joe Morgan because, quite honestly, of all those names, he's the one that has transcended this. All right, no problem. Synthetic yields, no problem. Does anybody have a vote in the chat for second base in the National League? Otherwise, I'm just going to go with Joe Morgan. So, anybody got anything? I know Synthetic has to leave, so I'm going to go Morgan at second base. All right, let's look at the American League and let's vote for who we would want at second base starting in the 77 All-Star Game at second base. We have, let me look at this real quick. We have George Orta, Frank White, Jerry Remy, Willie Randolph of the Yankees. Who's Randall? Randall. I can't, his name's not in front of me here. Randall, Dwayne Kuiper, not Eddie Money, but Don Money, I believe. Doyle. I can't think of Doyle's first name. Okay, we don't have any Hall of Famers, and in my mind, it's down to really two people. And anybody who's now watching this can vote on who they want for second base. And I'll just make it real large here so we know second base with the American League. So we have Doyle, Kuiper, Money, Orta, Randall, Randolph, Remy, and Frank White. So we have Willie Randolph and we have Frank White. In my mind, those would be the two go-to. Okay. I don't really have, like, to me, I think White had more power. Willie Randolph might have had more speed, more singles, doubles kind of guy. Frank White, I think, hit more home runs. Does anybody have a vote on this? Remember, we're voting together. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick somebody and I'm just going to go with, okay, does anybody have a vote? You can put it up in the chat. All right. All right. I'm going to go with Frank White. I'm going to say Frank White is the second baseman. All right. Now let's go to shortstops in the National League. All right. Now, this one here in the National League is going to be a little tough. There are no Hall of Famers. There's no head topper here. You have Larry Boa, Dave Concepcion, Tim Foley, Metzger, Bill Russell, Chris Spire, Tavares, and Gary Templeton. Now, probably back in 77, I would have voted for Gary Templeton. However, really, after he was traded for Ozzie Smith, he did okay, but he didn't do great. And my heart kind of pushing me to Dave Concepcion, the shortstop of the Reds. But does anybody here? Hey, Nathaniel, how are you? Real quick, Nathaniel, in the chat, please go ahead and vote for who you would want right now. We're voting for the National League shortstop. I'm putting the name out there as Dave Concepcion. That's who I would vote for, but I'm open to hear Nathaniel, if you have someone else you want to vote for here at shortstop for the National League, let me know. I'll pencil it in. But right now, we're going to put in Dave Concepcion, and we'll move then to the American League. But I'll give you about 5 seconds. Give me something in the chat. Otherwise, we'll just jump to the American League. So, all right. 5. All right. Good luck to your stream, man. I left a like for the more people to join. Great. Thank you, Joshy. Also, if you're on the stream right now, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're not subscribed right now, would love to get more subs and as many likes as possible. Thank you all for joining. So I'm going to go with Concepcion. No one obviously voted there, so we're going to go that way. And all right. Thank you, Nathaniel. Now we're going to go to the American League. American League has one of the best defensive shortstops ever in Mark Belanger, who's with the Orioles, Rick Burleson, who I think was with the Red Sox, Campaneris, Bert Campaneris, Bucky Dent of the Yankees, Bobby Grich. I think it's Larry Paytek, Roy Smalley, who probably was with, put up some good numbers at a shortstop, and then Robin Yount. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to go, my heart's telling me to go with Yount. I think Yount is, he's the Hall of Famer in this group, but I could see where someone might, back in the day, Mark Belanger, he was a great defensive player. Bucky Dent, obviously it's in New York, so they want to get New York players. He probably had some good years. Bert Campaneris, he was an older guy, but he had some very good, solid seasons. Bobby Grich, when he was with the Angels, and I forget who else he was with, but he had some good numbers as well. Roy Smalley did, but I'm going to go with Yount unless someone else, as a Yankee fan, you're going with Bucky Dent. Okay, we're going to put Bucky Dent in there then. So we're not just voting for me. Thank you very much, Nathaniel. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to go with Bucky Dent. All right. Now let's go to third baseman in the National League. And I got to tell you, okay, it's Doug Rader. Now it's interesting that they spell out his first name unless there was another Rader. Ken Reitz, Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, Bill Madlock, Phil Gardner, Ron Say, Enos Cabell. Now, really, everybody, I don't know who's on the line, but I would have to say right now that my vote is going to go to Mike Schmidt. Now, if Rose was maybe at first base, if Rose was, playing in the outfield or even second base, maybe I would give him more of a look, but Joe Morgan's at second. But I'm going to go with Mike Schmidt only because he's one of my favorite players. And unless someone tells me otherwise, and remember, you all can vote. Give me some feedback here. I know I'm moving this around. I just want to see how many people. All right. So Nathaniel, you were thinking Mike Schmidt. So we're going to go Mike Schmidt. Okay. The American League. I know who you're going to go with, but I'm going to push probably the other way. All right. We have Sal Bando, who I thought was a catcher, and then we have Buddy Bell, longtime Cleveland and Cleveland Indian and Texas Ranger. We have George Brett. Now I'm leaning towards George Brett because he's the only Hall of Famer. Then we have Chalk. We have Doug DeCinces, Toby Hara, Craig Nettles, and it's not Alex Rodriguez. I think I looked this up. I couldn't figure out who it was, but I'm going to go with Brett. Does anybody? I know that's going against Craig Nettles, but you have to remember Brett is a Hall of Famer. Craig Nettles had a great career, but I would always vote in this scenario with George Brett. So I'm just going to put Brett down right now. Okay, and we're going to move to catchers, and there's a really interesting debate, at least in the American League, on catchers. And you could maybe make a case here in the National League. So we have Johnny Bench, Bob Boone, a young Gary Carter. We have Steve Ferguson, the Groat, I'm not sure, Ted Simmons, Gene Tennis, Steve Yeager. Now, people will describe Brett's wild carrier off of one play. Well, Brett, I think though, didn't he have 3,000 or 3,000 hits? I mean, he did have a full career. It's just that he played in Kansas City. He had that big dust up or where he ran out of the dugout with the Yankees when his bat had too much pine tar on it. But anyway, so the catchers here. Now, this is an interesting one. We have 3 Hall of Famers, okay? We have Johnny Bench, Ted Simmons, and Gary Carter. And let's just say probably for most of you, um, you're not gonna say Ted Simmons. I live in St. Louis, I'm a Cardinal fan. I have a special place for Ted Simmons, but even I would say that he's probably the 3rd best on this team. It's really in my mind between Carter and Bench. Carter had a great career. He was obviously a great catcher for the Expos and the Mets, but I'm really leaning towards Johnny Bench. He's again, one of my favorite players growing up. I think his hands were so big he could hold 5 baseballs in one hand, which is just crazy. Nathaniel, I streamed these this week. I streamed Sunday through Thursday. I think next week I'm going to stream Monday through Thursday. However, up until tonight, I've been doing baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards, hockey cards. So I just kind of, I guess in one way, I try to look at a collectible and say, yes, because the 77 All-Star ballot is a collectible. I try to pick something up and then, make a show about it. Last night, I went through the various, years of different hockey goalie masks and the pads they wore, sort of a historical kind of thing. The night before, I just went through some random, I think it was baseball cards and the stories I had behind them and the stories behind the cards. So, all right. So I'm going to go with Bench here. I know I've talked a while on this one, so let's keep moving things along. But thank you, Nathaniel, for the question. Okay. Now, here in the American League, and Nathaniel's the Yankee. So I think I have a feeling who he's going to vote for. I don't know how old Nathaniel is, but we have Ashby, we have Carlton Fisk, we have Ray Fosse, Milt May, I want to say Butch Winnegar, Jim Sundberg, Manny Seguin, and then Thurman Munson. Now, Nathaniel, if you tell me Munson, because he was the Yankee but his life was cut short, I think, in an automobile accident, I want to say, I'm willing to go Munson. However, my heart kind of goes to Fisk, but Nathaniel, if you tell me Munson, I'll write down Munson here as the catcher. So why don't I just do that for you? I'll just put Munson down, and we'll see whether or not he got the nod as the starter. Okay, so then let's go to the outfield. Now I'll try to keep this thing moving. I know we've been going 24 minutes or 22 minutes. Okay, I'm going to have to make this smaller, everyone. So just bear with me for a second. Can I get it? Yes. All right. So on the left side, I hope everyone can. I'll make it a little. I can't. It's just so tall. Okay. So on the left side is the National League. We have Dusty Baker, Lou Brock, who's a Hall of Famer, Jeff Burroughs, who put up some monster numbers in the American League, I think with the Rangers, right? Jose Cardenal, who actually was a Cardinal at one point. Cesar Cedeno, who had great numbers with the Astros. Crawford, Jose Cruz, George Foster, monster numbers. Geronimo, he played with the Reds. I can't think of his first name right now. Okay, subscribe to Joey. Subscribe to Joey. What we're doing is we are voting for the players we want to start the 1977 All-Star Game. I know it's random, but I found a 1977 All-Star ballot, and I figured it might be worth a show. It might be something fun that we can talk about. And then what we're going to do is we just have the outfielders left. So we pick 3 National League on the left, 3 American on the right, and then we're going to see what we picked and who actually started the game. Okay. So I'm not going to read through all this list. Does anybody have a vote on the left side of the players? Dusty Baker, Lou Brock, Jeff Burroughs, Jose Cardenal, Cesar Cedeno, Crawford, I can't think of his first name, Jose Cruz, George Foster. Okay, great. Nathaniel, great. I'd love for you to tune in. Oh, you're 15. Cool. Hey, that's fine. We're very friendly for all that. So not a problem. Okay, subscribe to Joey. So does anybody have someone they would vote for? My heart, personally, I would go Lou Brock because he's a Hall of Famer, Dave Winfield because on the bottom right because he's a Hall of Famer, maybe Dave Parker, Greg Lazinski, Dave Kingman. Do we have any? Oh, thank you for the subscriptions. Yeah, and please like is if you haven't already, everybody watching, please like, please subscribe, and I'll be picking up next Monday on these. I don't know what I'm going to plan for on Monday, but you will know. All right, go good. We have Brock. Good. Does anybody else have any National League votes besides Brock? I just wrote down Brock. Do we want to go with Winfield because he is a Hall of Famer? I'm pushing that agenda. We also have Ken Griffey Sr. We have George Hendrick, Jay Johnstone, not Darren Oliver. Gosh, Al Oliver, Bobby Mercer. I think it's Jose Morales, Rick Monday, Bake McBride. What a great name. Gary Matthews, Gary Maddox, Greg Lazinski. Anybody there? I'm going to put down just to save time, Winfield. Any other picks in the National League, and then we can move to the American League. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to go with George Foster just because he put up some really good numbers with the Reds back then. All right, let's go to the right side. Everybody recognizes that name on the right. That's Bobby Bonds, Barry's dad. Bostic, can't remember his first name. Braun, I think it might be Steve Braun. Darrell Evans. Okay, Foster, Nathaniel, great. Oh, okay, cool. Foster. Okay, Darrell Evans, Ford. I can't remember his name. Henderson. It's not. I think it was Dave Henderson. Hissel. I don't know who that is. I don't recognize that name. Reggie Jackson. I'm just going to put Reggie Jackson down because, I mean, unless somebody completely hates the Yankees, he was one of the best players back in the mid 70s. So he has to be. Ron LaFleur, who I believe was with the White Sox, Fred Lynn with the Red Sox, Rick Manning, who might have been with Cleveland. I don't think he was with the Brewers yet. Hal McRae, Reggie Jackson, hands down. Okay, we got that. I think Bill North, Amos Otis, Jerry Rice, Mickey Rivers, great Yankee. Joe Rudy had some good years with the A's. Ken Singleton with the Orioles, Rusty Staub. You know what? I don't know who he was playing for then. Is he in this? Let's see. I can maybe tell you. No, I don't know who he was playing for. Anyway, Rusty Staub, who was a Met for a while. Washington. Maybe that's UL Washington with the Royals, maybe. Ron White, I believe. Oh, and Hissel is Larry Hissel. He actually played in the All-Star game. He was not a starter, though. And then we have Carl Yastrzemski and Richie Zisk. Now, I'm going to go with Yaz because he's another Hall of Famer. So we have a Yankee and a Red Sox on the team. We have Jackson and Yaz. Does anybody have any other outfield votes before we change up what we're looking at? Any other votes? All right. I'm just going to, let's see. I'm going to go with, no, I don't want to go with another Red Sox. That's not cool. Let's see. We're going to go with, oh boy, I don't know what, no, I don't want to go with a Yankee. Let's go with Ken Singleton. He was with the Orioles. I don't even know that he made the team this year. So, all right. Now let me get rid of this screen and call up this screen if everybody can see it here. I'm hoping you can still see it. And if we go down, here are the starters. Well, the pitchers don't count because we can't pick those, but it was Don Sutton. I got that wrong. It wasn't Tom Seaver. It was Don Sutton versus Jim Palmer. We got Johnny Bench correct, but Munson was not picked. It was Carlton Fisk. At first base, it was not Willie Stargell. It was Steve Garvey, which makes some sense because in the early to mid 70s, he had won an MVP. He was putting up some good numbers. He's always one of those players. I know this is a generic thing to say, but Steve Garvey's one of those people who's always looked at as a possible Hall of Famer, maybe with the Veterans Committee that he could possibly be a Hall of Famer. Okay, so Steve Garvey, we were wrong with. We were right with Rod Carew. So far we're two for four. Let's go to second base. At second base, we were right with Joe Morgan. That's pretty cool. Willie Randolph. Shoot. Okay, we are 3 for 6 so far. I wish I would have picked Willie Randolph. I mean, the game, and Nathaniel, if you're still there, this game was in New York. It was at Yankee Stadium. Let me just get rid of a few things up on the screen here. I apologize for the mess that I'm making. Let me just see. Okay. All right. So let's go back to this screen. And then we have in the outfield, George Foster, we were right. We were wrong with Brock and Winfield. Oh, you know what? I forgot shortstop. Let's go to the outfield over here. We were right with Reggie Jackson. We were right with Yaz, and we were wrong with Richie Zisk. So we were 3 for 6. Right now we're hitting right about 500, ironically, which would be great in baseball. Let's go back up to shortstop. All right, third base first. Third base, we got it wrong. It was Ron Say over Mike Schmidt. Probably Mike Schmidt was a little young then, but I would love to have seen him playing in 77. We had then George Brett. We got that one right. So we're still at 500. Now let's see what we do with shortstops. Shortstops, we are correct in the National League with Dave Concepcion and Rick Burleson, not Bucky Dent, was the shortstop for the American League. So we were right at 500. Now, if you're just guessing, and I won't take up too much more time here, here's some of the pitchers that made the team, a couple more from the American League than the National League. But what's interesting here is the National League won 7-5. I think Joe Morgan led off with a home run. But throwing 3 scoreless innings was Don Sutton, and he was the MVP of the game. Here, I'll just go through a real quick recap. Where's that recap? Okay, the National League started with a Joe Morgan blasting American League starter Jim Palmer's 6th pitch into Yankee Stadium's short porch. Steve Garvey struck out. Dave Parker followed with a single, a double by George Foster. So they were off to the races, but the National League won 7-5. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone. Let me turn the camera back here. Let's see what I can do. And I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. Clayton, you were here. Roll me one Kenobi. Hey, how are you? What we did tonight, Clayton and Roll me one Kenobi. Oh, who's my favorite Major League Baseball player? I'm very partial to Stan Musial. However, I've never seen him play. Okay, Clayton, I'm going to answer your question real quick. But probably Albert Pujols, especially back in the day, was my favorite player to watch. I was an Ozzie Smith fan, but definitely Albert Pujols was my favorite. What we did tonight, and you missed most of it, is we took a 1977 All-Star Major League Baseball ballot. We went through it. We picked who we would want to start, and then we compared the starters we picked to the starters that actually started the game. And we were right at 500. We were, I don't know, what was it? If it's 8 players, we were 8 for 16, which in baseball isn't too bad. Now, Derek Jeter, great player. I think you guys are 100% correct on the whole Derek Jeter thing. I mean, he just an incredible player, very class act, always fun to watch. What a team. Better defensively than I think he's given credit for. I mean, I still think of that one playoff play where he sort of scooted the ball to the catcher to make the out, or to the person at third base. I mean, just an incredible play. A Yankees legend. Anyway, so I'll be back on Monday with my live streaming. Please also watch my shorts, watch my longer videos. I talk about John Daly, the golfer. I talk about Babe Ruth. I talk about what Ken Griffey Jr. That was one I put out yesterday. What he's up to. I have a bunch of shorts, all different kinds of sports, from the Olympics to baseball to hockey to football to basketball. I have the reason why there was a New York Knick who had a new number for a game. So anyway. Thank you, Roll Me One Kenobi. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, Clayton. Let's see who else. Thank you. Subscribe to Joey. Thank you, Joshy. Thank you, Synthetic Yields. And I will see you all and talk to you on Monday. Have a great week, and catch any videos. I'll be posting tomorrow a short, and then a little bit longer one, a minute or two, on this marathon that was the longest marathon ever. It was actually years that it took for the marathon. So thank you all. Take care. Have a great week.